I never imagined my own parents would one day look me in the eye and tell me my children weren't welcome in their home. Yet here I was, standing in my kitchen, staring at my phone in disbelief. Thanksgiving was just a few weeks away, and my mom's voice on the other end of the line was unusually light as she spoke. "Honey, we need to talk about Thanksgiving this year." My heart warmed for a moment. After all the tension that had existed between us over the years, I still longed for these family traditions. My kids, Lily and Ethan, adored their grandparents, despite the distance that had formed between us. "Of course, Mom, what's the plan?" I asked, already picturing how their house would smell of roasted turkey, cinnamon, and the warmth of a family gathering. But there was a brief pause, just long enough to send a chill down my spine. "Well," Mom continued, clearing her throat, "this year we're doing things a little differently. It's going to be a smaller dinner, just adults, you know, something more intimate." I frowned. "Oh, so no kids at all?" Another pause, then more hesitantly, "Well, not exactly." A cold knot twisted in my stomach. "What do you mean?" Mom sighed, as if she were the one being put in an uncomfortable position. "Lily and Ethan, they're just a bit, well, energetic. Honestly, we feel like it would be better if you left them with a sitter this year." I gripped the edge of the counter. "So just my kids? What about Andy's kids?" Andy, my older brother, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes, even when he did. Mom hesitated. "Well, Andy and Sophie are coming with their boys. You know how well behaved they are, Allie. They're just quieter, more refined. It's easier to have them at the table." A wave of heat flushed through me. I felt like I'd been slapped. "They're just children," I said, my voice tight. "Lily's 10, and Ethan's 6. Of course, they have energy, but they're sweet, and they love you." But my mom was already getting irritated. "We're just trying to have a peaceful evening, Allie," she said, her tone clipped. I didn't know what to say. It wasn't just about Thanksgiving. It was about how they had always treated my children like an afterthought, while putting Andy's boys on a pedestal. The way they came to Andy's kids' school plays, but never made the effort to show up for Lily's dance recital. The way Christmas gifts were always just a little extra for Andy's kids, and now they weren't even hiding it. "Mom," I whispered, my throat tight, "you're actually telling me that my kids aren't welcome, but Andy's are." "Allie, don't be dramatic," Mom sighed. "It's just one dinner. You and Jason are still invited, of course." I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. They wanted me there, but not the two people I loved most in this world. "No, Mom," I said, swallowing hard. "If my kids aren't welcome, then neither am I." There was a long silence. Then my mom exhaled sharply, as though I were the unreasonable one. "Suit yourself," she said. And just like that, she hung up. I stood there staring at the phone. My breath was unsteady. I could hear Lily and Ethan giggling as they built a pillow fort in the next room, blissfully unaware that their grandparents, the ones they adored, had just cast them aside like an inconvenience. My mind raced. For years, I had tried to please my parents, to earn their approval. But at what cost? If I let them get away with this, if I went to that dinner while my children sat at home, wondering why they weren't good enough, what kind of mother would that make me? No, I wasn't doing this anymore. They had made their choice. Now it was time for me to make mine, and they would regret it sooner than they thought. For the longest time, I had convinced myself that my parents loved all of us equally. Sure, there had been moments where I felt overlooked, but I told myself that was just my imagination. They were just busy, right? But as the years went on, the signs became harder to ignore. It was the little things, like how they never showed up for Lily's dance recitals or school plays, but they'd always be there for Andy's boys. Christmas presents were always a little bit bigger for their grandsons. A little extra something tucked inside the wrapping paper. Every time I tried to voice my concerns, my mom would brush me off, saying I was overreacting. And I believed her. I thought if I just kept trying, If I showed them that I could be the perfect daughter, the perfect mom, they would finally see me as enough. But Thanksgiving was the tipping point. When I heard my mom dismiss my kids as too energetic and claim that Andy's kids were just easier to have around, something inside me snapped. I always thought that love and family weren't supposed to be conditional. But with every word my mom said, it became painfully clear. My children were not enough. They weren't quiet enough, refined enough, or well-behaved enough to deserve a seat at the table. My heart twisted with a cold ache. They love your kids, really, they do, she had said. But actions speak louder than words. If they really loved my children, they would have made an effort. They would have made room for them. Instead, they treated my kids like an inconvenience, something to tolerate. In the end, it wasn't just about Thanksgiving. It was about the way they had always treated us, like we weren't good enough. And for the first time, I realized I had to stop chasing their approval. I had to stop letting them make me feel like I wasn't worthy of love because of their favoritism. The decision was made. I wasn't going to let them get away with this. I wasn't going to go to Thanksgiving and pretend everything was fine when my kids were excluded. For years, I had bent over backward trying to please my parents, hoping that if I followed their rules, if I just did everything they wanted, they would finally see me as good enough. But it never worked, and now they were telling me that my children weren't good enough. I couldn't accept that, not from the people I thought would always have our backs. When I looked at Lily and Ethan, their faces full of innocence and love, I knew I couldn't let them feel like they weren't wanted. I wasn't going to teach them that they had to earn love, that they had to be a certain way to be accepted. They deserved more than that. They deserved a mother who would stand up for them, no matter what. So I made the call. I reached out to Jason, my husband, and told him what had happened. He didn't need to hear the details. He already knew. He could see it in my eyes, the way the hurt had started to pile up, the way the years of unfair treatment had begun to wear on me. Together, we decided that we weren't going to let my parents dictate our lives anymore. We had our own Thanksgiving, a simple one, pancakes and maple syrup, a cozy breakfast in our pajamas. There was no rush, no stress about appearances or perfection. It felt like freedom. And for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. I could look at my children without the guilt, without the shame of trying to earn someone else's approval. We were enough. They were enough. And this was our family now. It didn't take long for my parents to notice the silence. For years, I had been the dependable one, the one who always came through when they needed something. If they needed help with their finances, I was there. If they needed someone to drive them to the doctor or fix something around the house, I was the one they called. But after Thanksgiving, things changed. I wasn't there anymore. I didn't answer their calls. I didn't respond to their texts, and they knew. They had to know. A week before Thanksgiving, my mom called again. This time, I debated ignoring it, but I had to take a stand. I answered. "Allie," she said, her tone careful, almost pleading. "I just wanted to check in. I know you're upset, but I really hope you'll reconsider. We would love to have you and Jason over for dinner. Just you two, not the kids. You know we love you both." I could feel my blood boil. The audacity. After everything, she thought she could just sweep this under the rug. But I was done. "Mom, if my kids aren't welcome, neither am I," I said, my voice steady, even though I felt the anger rising in my chest. There was a long pause. She sighed heavily. "I just don't understand why you're being so stubborn. It's just one night. You know how much Andy's kids mean to us. Can't you just let it go?" I clenched my jaw, the familiar hurt threatening to choke me. "No, Mom, I'm not letting it go. You've made your choice, and so have I." She tried to argue, but I was done listening. I ended the call and felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was time to stop pretending. This wasn't just about Thanksgiving anymore. This was about standing up for my kids and my family. And I wasn't going to let anyone make us feel small ever again. I thought that after I cut ties with my parents, I'd finally find peace. But of course I was wrong. They didn't give up easily. They never did. A few days after Thanksgiving, I received a text from Andy. Mom and Dad are really upset that you're ignoring them. Are you seriously going to let this go this far? I stared at my phone, my fingers gripping it tighter. He couldn't be serious. Was he really trying to guilt trip me over this? I typed out a response, my hands shaking. Of course, she's upset. She uninvited my kids and invited yours. But I'm the one being unreasonable, right? I waited, feeling the silence between us stretch. After a moment, the typing bubbles appeared, then stopped. A full minute passed before his response came through. Allie, she just wants a calm dinner. You know how your kids can be a lot. I could feel my blood begin to boil. A lot? What did he mean by that? A lot like they were a burden, something to be tolerated? I wasn't going to stand for this anymore. Let me get this straight, I typed back, my fingers flying over the keys. You want me to keep sending them money after they literally told me they love your kids more than mine? They didn't mean it like that. Well, they said it. I pressed send, my heart racing. His response was just as expected. If you want to be selfish, that's on you. But don't expect Mom and Dad to forgive you anytime soon. I felt a strange sense of relief when he hit send. It wasn't over, but I knew it was time to stop trying to fix things. My parents made their choice, and now I was making mine. By the time Thanksgiving rolled around, I had missed 12 calls and ignored over half a dozen texts from them. Still, my parents couldn't take a hint. They had grown accustomed to relying on me, to treating me like the family scapegoat, who was always there to do the heavy lifting. But I wasn't going to be their fallback anymore. My family, Jason, Lily, and Ethan, were my priority now, and I would no longer let anyone make us feel small. Sometimes in life, we have to accept hurt and unfair discrimination, especially when our loved ones do not respect or even harm our family. But remember, no one has the right to make you feel small or unworthy, especially when you stand up for the children you love and for your own life. Cutting ties with toxic relationships is not weakness, but a strong, decisive action to protect your worth and your family. Never let anyone make you feel like you need to change or please them at any cost. True love is respect. It is empathy, not exploitation. Be strong, steadfast, and never hesitate to say no when it's necessary. Life is too short to endure unfairness from those we love. Let comment number 9 to let us know you're ready to do that. If you enjoy deep, emotional, and meaningful stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new update. Your support is the motivation that drives us to keep bringing you powerful stories. Once again, thank you for being here, and see you in the next story.